Welcome to Beyond the Ordinary, a space for extraordinary souls navigating a world that often feels anything but simple. The battles you face, the challenges that test you, these are not random. They are the refining fires that meant to shape you into something much greater. Here, we explore the grace, strength, and wisdom that emerge when you rise above what others call impossible. This is your journey to uncover the extraordinary within. Welcome back, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. What you're about to hear is built differently. I use the power of AI to produce the show, not to make things up, but to save time and give you daily access to something that would otherwise take months to create. Every episode is built around a specific framework of books, lectures, expert research, and analysis distilled into a conversation that you can actually observe. And if you've been skeptical about AI, I totally understand. Like anything in this world, technology can be used to harm or to heal, anti-life or pro-life. My intention with the show is to demonstrate what's possible when you use these tools for something genuinely good, for your growth and for the world. My goal is not perfection, it is access. Access to knowledge that can authentically expand how you think and how you live. Stay open-minded and let's go deep.
Usually when we talk about reading a text, there's this inherent expectation of distance. You know, you open a cover, you look at the ink on the page, and you observe a narrative.
Right, it's a passive thing.
Exactly. It's a safe, contained act of passive consumption, sort of like looking at a photograph of a building. But when you step into the world of medieval Jewish mysticism, that safe, contained book just entirely shatters.
Oh, absolutely. It completely falls apart.
Yeah. We find ourselves looking at a textual landscape that isn't a photograph at all. It's like walking into the architectural blueprint of a skyscraper while the building is actively being constructed around you.
Which is a terrifying and exhilarating concept.
Right. And you realize, with this sudden sense of vertigo, that simply by reading the blueprint, you are the one pouring the concrete. And so, welcome to you, our passionately curious listener. Welcome to another deep dive.
We have a truly monumental stack of source material on the table today.
We really do. We are diving into Volume 11 of the Zohar, Pritzker Edition, translated and commentated by Joel Hecker. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the Midrash HaNe'elam,
Also known as the concealed Midrash.
Right. And what makes this particular section so fascinating is its really troubled publication history. Because early publishers actually mistakenly labeled these texts the Zohar Hadash, or the New Zohar.
Yeah, and that historical misstep is just crucial to understand. Because it fundamentally skewed how readers approached the text for centuries.
No.
Well, the early printers in the 16th century called it the New Zohar, simply because these manuscripts were discovered and printed after the main body of the Zohar had already been published.
Oh, I see. So it was just a chronological printing thing.
Exactly. But the label is entirely misleading. I mean, textual scholars and linguists have demonstrated that the Midrash HaNe'elam isn't a late addition at all. It's not an afterthought.
It's actually the opposite, right?
Completely. It represents some of the earliest, most foundational layers of the entire Zoharic library. It is literally the bedrock upon which the later, more famous sections were built.
So we're essentially looking at the origin story here.
Yeah, you are reading the nascent, radical ideas of the Kabbalistic circle that was forming in late 13th century Spain.
And those radical ideas completely upend how we read familiar biblical stories. I mean, the text takes books like the Song of Songs or the Book of Ruth and just strips away the pastoral romance. It strips away the simple historical narrative.
It does. It transforms them into hyper-detailed, mystical maps.
Maps of the human soul, the actual architecture of the cosmos, and this terrifying, awe-inspiring journey into the afterlife.
And the core premise driving all of this, the thing you have to keep in mind, is an unimaginably interconnected universe.
Right, where nothing is isolated.
Nothing. The Zoharic authors viewed the universe as a profoundly interconnected web, where a single human breath, or a whispered prayer, or, as we'll see later, even sending away a bird from its nest, echoes all the way up into the highest heavens.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the macro level, because the sources go into deep detail about how the Zohar envisions the actual creation of the cosmos.
Yeah, the cosmogony in the Midrash HaNe'elam is wild.
Yeah.
It abandons that simple, let there be light narrative for something deeply tactile.
Yeah.
Very elemental.
Right. The text actually states that the Holy One took snow from beneath the throne of glory, warmed it, and cast it into what it calls the waters of the female.
Which is such a fascinating use of elemental physics for that time period.
It really is. You have the ultimate divine heat of the throne interacting with crystallized water, the snow.
And in medieval elemental theory, snow is the perfect mediator. I mean, it is water that has taken on the properties of earth by becoming solid, yet it originates up in the heavens.
Ah, so it bridges the gap.
Exactly. By taking this supernal snow and warming it, the divine introduces a concentrated, localized intensity into the infinite expanse of the primordial waters.
And from that interaction, a single point congeals in the depth. The text calls it the point of Zion.
The navel of the world.
The navel of the world, yeah. It's the absolute center of gravity for reality. And from this single congealed point, 4 filaments stretch out to the east, the west, the north, and the south.
Weaving the physical earth into existence.
Weaving it, exactly. And the biological imagery the Zohar uses here is just striking. It says that when the earth was brought out into the atmosphere, the water surged, accompanied by peals of thunder and earthquakes.
Like a birth.
Literally like an infant being born, the earth emerged inert and soiled.
And that biological framework is key because it reinforces that the universe is not some machine engineered by a detached creator.
Right.
It is an organism birthed through cosmic contractions. The text even notes that just as a midwife might, blow on a newborn infant to stimulate its breathing.
Replace a candle near it for warmth.
Yes. The Holy One used lightning to illuminate the newborn world and thunder to awaken the dormant earth. So the physical phenomena of the weather we experience.
They're lingering echoes of that primordial resuscitation.
Exactly.
Okay, so this mirroring of the universe and the body is huge.
Yeah.
And it extends directly into the very letters of the Hebrew text.
Oh, the letters are everything. In this framework, they aren't symbols representing concepts. They are the actual structural beams of the cosmos.
Right, like cosmic blueprints. The sources give us 4 distinct examples of these giant foundational letters that anchor their respective biblical books.
And the text says these letters contain the mystery of the entire book.
Let's walk through them. First, we have the letter Bet, which initiates the book of Genesis.
And the architecture of the Bet is just a masterclass in Zoharic theology. Visually, it's closed on 3 sides, the top, the bottom, and the right side.
But it's open on the left.
Right, which in ancient mapping corresponds to the north. And those 3 closed sides represent the divine structure protecting the house of the world. But that open north wall, that is the mechanism of free will and the domain of evil.
Because in biblical literature, the north is frequently associated with impending doom, right? Like Jeremiah's boiling pot tilting from the north.
Precisely. The Zohar interprets this structurally. Evil is not an equal opposing deity. It is a parasitic force that dwells in the unformed, open domain of the north, and it's constantly attempting to infiltrate the house of the world.
Wow. So the very first letter of the Bible is essentially warning the reader that they are living in an imperfectly sealed fortress.
Exactly.
That is incredible. Okay, what about the letter Shin, which opens the Song of Songs?
Visually, the Shin features 3 vertical branches rising from a single horizontal base.
Right.
The Midrash Hanilah maps this onto the supernal chariot driven by the 3 patriarchs. So Abraham represents the right column of unyielding love. Isaac represents the left column of rigorous, almost severe judgment.
And Jacob is the central column that harmonizes the 2 into compassion.
Right. So when you read the Song of Songs, you aren't just reading a nice love poem. The text implies you are engaging the mathematical mechanism that balances love and judgment in the universe.
Okay, wait, let's pause here. Are you saying these giant starting letters operate almost like cosmic zip files? You click on the Shin and it suddenly decompresses to reveal the entire spiritual architecture of the Song of Songs.
That is actually a really great way to put it, yes.
But I have to push back a little here. If the text is a living architecture, does reading it literally alter the fabric of the world? Or does it just alter the reader's mind?
In the Zohar, language is reality. Reading isn't just absorption of data, it's an act of cosmic alignment. To know the opening letter is to possess the key to the spiritual forces that sustain that specific book's reality.
So it transforms the scholar into a cosmic mechanic.
It really does. If the universe was birthed through these letters, then speaking them aloud with the correct intention resonates with the original frequency of creation.
Let's quickly hit the other 2 letters mentioned in the sources. The letter Mem in Proverbs.
Right, the closed circular nature of the final mem represents the perfect protective female. the woman of valor.
And then the letter Aleph in Chronicles. This one is very anthropomorphic.
Very. The Aleph is constructed of a diagonal line, the Vav, with two smaller points, yods, extending like arms from either side.
And the Zohar maps this directly onto the physical form of primordial Adam, a central torso with arms reaching upward to the heavens and downward to the earth,
Acting as the conduit that unifies the upper and lower realms.
So if the universe is this macro-level structure built of divine letters and born from cosmic snow, we need to talk about how the human being fits into this architecture.
The microcosm.
Exactly. The deep dive moves from the macrocosmos to the human microcosm, and the Midrash Hanelim transitions into this incredibly granular view of the anatomy of the human soul.
And it grounds this massive philosophical mapping in a deeply intimate moment from the Song of Songs, a kiss.
Right. The Song of Songs opens with, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth," and the Zohar just seizes on this.
Because a kiss is not viewed merely as a physical expression of affection. It is the ultimate spiritual union. It's the point where breath meets breath. And you have to remember, the Hebrew word for spirit, ru'ah, also translates to breath or wind.
And the text details that every person contains two spirits within them.
Right. So when a tree kiss occurs, it is a complex intertwining of four spirits for Rhea.
Your two spirits and your partner's two spirits.
They fuse, aligning in perfect symmetry to become one complete spirit. It suggests that human connection requires this precise internal clicking together of spiritual components.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this intricate fusion hints at the Zohar's broader theory of consciousness. The human soul isn't just one glowing orb.
No, it is highly complex. It's a stratified apparatus.
Like a matryoshka doll. Or actually, let's map this out, like the corporate structure of a massive organization.
I like that analogy.
Okay, so at the foundational level, you have the nefesh, the animating life force.
Which the text sometimes splits into the animal or bestial nefesh and the intellectual nefesh.
Right. So in our corporate analogy, the nefesh is the frontline worker. It's dealing with the physical world, managing the day-to-day survival of the body, digesting food, processing sensory input.
The text even notes that when the body dies, the nefesh actually lingers and mourns over the flesh because their partnership was so tight, so symbiotic.
Wow. Okay, so moving up the hierarchy, we hit the ruah, the spirit.
And the text associates the ruah with the ethical guidance provided by the Torah.
So if the nefesh is the frontline worker, the ruah is middle management. It receives the raw, chaotic data and desires from the nefesh and applies ethical frameworks.
Right. It filters out pure animal instinct and tries to steer the individual toward righteous action.
Then above the ruah, we have the neshama, the higher soul, the visionary CEO of the corporation.
The supernal force. The sources describe the neshama as the entity that stimulates a person to repent and seek divine connection. It's looking at the ultimate metaphysical trajectory of the person.
But the text reveals an even deeper fourth level, doesn't it?
It does. The nishmeta linishmeta, the soul of the soul.
The soul of the soul. That is just a beautiful phrase.
It represents the deepest, most concealed divine spark within a human being. It's directly associated with the holy name of God itself.
To finish the analogy, this is the mysterious founder who owns the company. They provided the original capital, but they are entirely insulated from the factory floor. They exist in a state of pure, detached perfection.
That works perfectly. Because the Zohar insists on the absolute interdependence of all these parts. The CEO, the neshama, cannot enact its visionary goals in the physical world without the frontline worker, the nefesh.
Right. If the neshama wants to perform an act of charity, it needs the nefesh to physically move the arm and hand the coin over.
Exactly. They are completely interdependent. And this actually highlights a really provocative concept discussed in the text regarding converts to Judaism.
Specifically focusing on the figure of Ruth.
Right. The Zohar explores the spiritual physics of someone originating from outside the covenantal system. It posits that such an individual has a spiritual DNA tied to what it calls the dregs or lees of the physical world.
A sort of residue of spiritual impurity from their origins.
Right. So when a convert like Ruth makes the decision to enter the covenant, they receive a literal upgrade to their spiritual hardware. The Holy One actively infuses them with a new holy ruah and a new holy nefesh.
But the text says this process is agonizing, right?
It is a violent internal recalibration. The newly infused Holy Spirit has to exert immense pressure to overcome those existing physical dregs. Their spiritual DNA is fundamentally rewritten.
That makes the dedication of a true convert so profound in this framework Their holy soul literally waged a war just to take control of the physical vessel.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the real narrative centerpiece of the Midrash HaNe'elam, and that is its radical reinterpretation of the Book of Ruth.
This is where all those soul structures we just talked about get mapped onto a story.
Yeah. The Zohar takes the story of Naomi, Elimelech, Ruth, and Orpah, and it doesn't read it as a historical famine and migration. It reads it entirely as an allegorical map of the soul's journey into a physical body.
The allegory is incredibly precise.
Let's run through the cast of characters as soul parts. Naomi,
whose name translates to pleasantness, represents the neshama, that visionary supernal soul, the CEO.
and her husband Elimelech.
He represents the nishmeta, linishmeta, the hidden soul of the soul, the founder.
Then they have two sons, Malan and Chilion.
Malan represents the intellectual spirit, the roa,
Ah.
and Chilion represents the animal or bestial spirit.
So the nuclear family of the biblical narrative is literally the complete corporate structure of a single human consciousness prior to birth.
Yes.
Then we have the wives, Ruth and Orpah.
Right. Ruth represents the intellectual nephesh, the lower soul that chooses to cling to holiness. And Orpah represents the bestial nephesh that turns her back on holiness. In fact, her name shares a root with Orph, meaning the back of the neck.
Oh, wow.
She embraces physical degradation and returns to her origins.
Okay, so let's unpack the allegory itself. The narrative begins with a famine in Bethlehem, forcing Elimelech and Naomi to migrate to the fields of Moab.
Allegorically, Bethlehem, which literally means the house of bread, represents the pure heavenly realm sustained by divine light.
In Moab.
Moab represents the dense material world, the foul physical body itself.
So when they leave Israel for Moab due to famine, it symbolizes the pure soul being forced out of the heavenly realm. It's exiled into a physical body.
The Zohar views birth not as a joyous beginning, but as a traumatic exile into the mud.
And once in Moab, tragedy strikes. Elimelech and his sons die.
The Zohar interprets these deaths as a catastrophic spiritual breakdown. It calls it rupture upon rupture.
Rupture upon rupture.
Yeah. The death of Elimelech signifies that the individual has succumbed so deeply to physical existence that the highest divine spark, the nishmeta linishmeta, loses its connection to the upper realms.
And when the sons die, the intellectual and bestial spirits have flatlined. Wait, I have to ask, is the Zohar saying the physical body is inherently evil? I thought Judaism generally celebrates the physical world. If Moab equals the body and it's a place of death for the higher soul, isn't that a very dark view of human life?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not that the body is evil, but it is a profound risk. The physical world is dangerous. The Zohar addresses this through the classic parable of the lame man and the blind man.
Oh, the one with the king's garden.
Right. A king appoints two guards for his garden, a lame man and a blind man. The lame man represents the soul. He has the spiritual vision to see the fruit, but lacks the physical legs to get it.
And the blind man represents the body. He has the mechanical power, the arms and legs, but he is completely blind to spiritual consequence.
To steal the fruit, they must team up. The lame man climbs onto the blind man's back, and they commit the crime together.
And when the king catches them, they blame each other, but the king judges them together as a single entity.
Because the physical body's blindness can effortlessly overpower the soul's vision. That is why Moab is a place of death. The physical appetites can starve the higher soul.
But Ruth's choice provides redemption. She proves that the physical soul, the nephesh, can align with the higher soul. The frontline worker clings to the CEO.
And because of that, she achieves ultimate royal sanctity, giving birth to the Davidic line.
So the physical body is a crucible, but it's the only place where that level of sanctity can be forged.
Exactly.
Which perfectly transitions us to the next massive concept. If the soul's choices in the physical world are so critical, how do our everyday actions physically ripple through this cosmic system?
The Zohar firmly rejects the idea of isolated human actors. Every deed alters reality.
And the deep dive moves to this truly mind-bending interpretation of an obscure biblical law from Deuteronomy 22, the law of the bird's nest.
Right. The text commands that if you chance upon a bird's nest, you must send away the mother bird before taking your eggs.
To a modern reader, this just seems like a basic animal welfare law, a code of ethical hunting.
But the Midrash HaNe'elam claims it is a cosmic trigger.
The mechanism here is wild. When a human obeys this law and shoos away the mother bird, she flies off shrieking in sorrow, desperate for her lost children.
And those cries resonate upward and awaken a specific heavenly entity, the angel appointed over birds.
This angel hears the mother bird and immediately demands compassion from the Holy One.
And here is the profound pivot. When God hears the cries of this exiled mother bird, he is suddenly reminded of his own exiled mother.
The Shekinah.
The Shekinah, the divine presence. And he is reminded of his exiled children, Israel.
So the human act of causing a minor controlled sorrow for the bird actively holds up a mirror to divine sorrow.
And the text asserts that this actively forces God to unleash boundless mercy upon the entire world.
So what does this all mean? It's like the universe is an incredibly sensitive acoustic room where dropping a pin, sending away a bird creates a deafening roar in the heavens.
It's a calculated spiritual mechanism. You pull a lever on earth, and the gates of divine mercy swing open.
The exactitude applies to negative actions, too. Let's look at Elimelech as a historical figure. Why did he die in Moab?
Because he was a wealthy leader who, when famine struck, fled to save himself rather than staying to help the poor.
He abandoned the ship while serving as captain.
And the Zohar states that leaders are judged first. His attempt to escape the physical famine ironically triggered his spiritual execution.
The scales have to balance. Which brings us to another example of this mathematical exactitude. The recitation of the Shema.
The text views prayer as a physical medicinal act. The Zohar notes there are exactly 248 words in the traditional recitation of the Shema.
Which corresponds perfectly to the 248 limbs and organs of the human body.
So reciting it correctly acts as targeted spiritual medicine. Each word heals a corresponding limb.
But there's a catch, right? Because the biblical text of the Shema natively only has 245 words.
Right, it's 3 words short.
So the human prayer leader must repeat the final 3 words, YHVH, your God is truth, to complete the cosmic anatomical puzzle.
Manually bridging the gap.
But wait, if every single word of a prayer and every minor action is mathematically tied to cosmic survival, doesn't that create a paralyzing anxiety for the believer?
You'd think so, but the Zohar views it as profound empowerment. Rather than anxiety, it means the human being is the engine of the universe.
Without the human, the spiritual limbs of the cosmos remain fractured.
Exactly.
But what happens when that human engine is used for malice? Or when the soul completely fails its earthly mission? This brings us to the darkest part of the source material.
The terrifying vision of the demonic and the afterlife.
Yeah. Let's look at the Zohar's origins of evil and sorcery. The text references the sons of God from Genesis.
The Zohar identifies them specifically as Uzzah and Azael, angels who criticized God's decision to create humanity and were cast down.
And because they descended with elements of fire and wind, they literally materialized in the physical atmosphere. They became physically dense.
They got trapped in the gravitational pull of the material world.
God chained them in the mountains of darkness, buried deep in the abyss. And from there, these ancient fallen angels teach humanity the darkest arts of magic.
The text explicitly names the biblical sorcerer Balaam, claiming he learned his magic from them.
It's an origin story for sorcery born from celestial bitterness, and this leads directly into the geometry of hell itself, Gehenna.
The Zohar maps hell with a rigorous geometric precision. It has 7 distinct compartments, matching the 7 names of the evil impulse.
The punishments are the direct architectural consequence of specific sins. Let's walk through these 7 chambers. The uppermost chamber is the pit.
Filled with violent angels of destruction, snakes, and scorpions.
And it's reserved for those who scorn scholars, or, this is crazy, those who chat idly during prayer.
Which seems disproportionate until you remember the acoustic room. If prayer maintains the 248 limbs of the cosmos, chatting introduces linguistic static. It frays the cosmic tether.
Wow. Chamber 2 is destruction, a place of green fire and absolute darkness.
Reserved for those who shame others in public or hoard their Torah knowledge.
Chamber 3 is Duma, for the arrogant and gossips.
Chamber 4 is slimy mud, for those who oppress the poor, withhold wages, or take bribes.
Chamber 5 is Sheol, for heretics and informers who sink and never rise.
And finally, the deepest pits, Salmavet and another world, for the most egregious sexual and spiritual betrayals.
To make this concrete, the sources share the gripping story of Rabbi Pritzker. He fell into a coma and awoke to tell his companions what he saw, a literal near-death experience.
Right. He saw the angel of death coming for him, but the Shekinah protected him.
He was taken to a heavenly court led by the angel Sandalphon. And because earthly witnesses testify that Rabbi Pritzker always waived the right of retribution, meaning he was extraordinarily forgiving in life, the heavenly court abandon his case.
They sent him back to finish his earthly studies.
These aren't just vague warnings. This is Dante's Inferno centuries before Dante, combined with the modern NDE account. Why does the Zohar need to terrify its readers with these 7 chambers and literal chains in the abyss?
This raises an important question. But the Zohar isn't just trying to scare people. It is mapping absolute justice. Every action has an equal and opposite cosmic reaction.
Like Newton's third law of spirituality.
Exactly. If the Shema heals the 248 limbs, then gossiping or ignoring the poor literally creates a spiritual compartment of slimy mud. Hell isn't just a punishment. It is the physical manifestation of human cruelty.
We are the architects of the 7 chambers.
We build our own afterlife.
Man, when we synthesize the massive theological ground we've covered today, a staggering picture emerges, from the cosmic weight of the Hebrew letters to the matryoshka doll structure of the soul.
The psychological allegory of Ruth's exile into the body.
The butterfly effect of sending away a mother bird, and the rigorous, terrifying justice of the afterlife. The Zohar demands that we take our lives seriously. In a modern world overflowing with meaningless information and throwaway actions, this worldview insists that nothing is throwaway.
Nothing evaporates.
Every word you speak, every poor person you encounter, every text you read holds the power to either shatter a cosmic structure or heal a broken world.
You hold the levers of the universe.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over. The Zohar tells us that reading a text isn't just consuming information, it is entering the architectural blueprint of the universe. So the next time you open a book, or even send a simple text message, ask yourself, if these letters are the building blocks of reality, what kind of world are you constructing with them today?
Everything we explore today is only as valuable as what you do with it. Information without transformation is just noise. Over the last decade, I've built a methodology specifically designed to help you take what you are learning about your mind, your emotions, your consciousness, and yourself, and actually live it, use it. Use it practically in your daily life. It is the methodology which I called the Elim method, which stands for awareness, letting go, intention, and mindfulness. Or when you master it, it becomes a life in miracles. And if today's episode stirred something up in you, come find out how I can put it into practice, how you can use this practical tool in your life. Visit elimmethod.com or connect with me on Instagram, Spirit of James.